Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. It's Thursday, May 29th. Teams are practicing. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined by Mr. Denny Carter and Kyle Dvorchak. We got stuff on Malik Nabers, who's not practicing, apparently. Has a toe injury. Quote, won't do much this spring. Love to hear that for a guy who was always in and out of the lineup last year, despite mostly staying in and posting huge numbers. Rashee Rice wasn't practicing much last year because his own quarterback blew out his knee. But now that own quarterback says he has no limitations, and it sounds like he could be ready for week one. I've seen best ball people, Kyle, saying, all right, it doesn't sound like a third-round pick to me. Rashee Rice apparently needs to be going higher in best ball drafts. Terry McLaurin wants a new deal. Don't we all, brother? Is he still a wide receiver, too, in fantasy? That was actually a new Franklin Roosevelt New Deal joke, not an NBC joke, to be clear. Rashee Rice, though, no. I got rattled by my own joke. Terry McLaurin wants a new contract. Is he still good? We're going to explore that concept. Jayden Daniels, quote, a little thicker. I'm out. Lots of stuff. Jonnu Smith could be traded. Apparently, this has happened before the show. Josh Downs already hurt again. Ricky Pearsall, breakout odds. So much more. But Denny, the latest, the greatest. This is the Aaron Rodgers update. That's going to solve the whole thing.
It is. We're blowing it wide open.
We're blowing it wide open. We, of course, being Fox's Terry Bradshaw. He's got well, it seems like pretty sage advice for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
What is it? Do you agree with it?
First of all, I was muted, and I have to get my joke off. He said Jayden Daniels showing up thicker, and obviously same.
Yeah, of
same,
course.
same.
Yep. Obviously.
Yeah, so Bradshaw was asked about the whole won't he Rodgers to Pittsburgh situation. He was asked by a DJ at 103.7 The Buzz in Arkansas.
Come on, man.
And that's what it's called.
103.7 The Buzz.
And here's what he said. He said, quote, that's a joke. That is just to me is a joke. What are you going to do? Bring him in for 1 year? Are you kidding me? That guy needs to stay in California. Go somewhere and chew on some bark and whisper to the gods out there. What a quote. I mean, that's tremendous.
That is what a quote. You got to give Terry Bradshaw.
From a guy in Terry Bradshaw who it's very tough to watch Terry Bradshaw read highlights. Very difficult.
Terry Bradshaw.
He woke up on this one and he told Aaron Rodgers to stay in California and eat tree bark. And honestly, that's in the range of outcomes.
I will say, not to criticize a rival, but to criticize a rival. Fox NFL Sunday, I feel like I don't get a whole lot of analysis. Terry Bradshaw, the second he does an outside interview, he's like, well, I get rid of the whole league. He starts saying super interesting stuff. On the desk, he never says anything. And outside, like Joe Montana, Hall of Famer. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, to Denny's point, don't ever have this guy read a teleprompter. Don't be like, oh, so-and-so ran 57 yards for a touchdown in the second quarter. Just let him rip it. He's still got the fastball. Don't ask him to throw a curve. This is a good joke.
I won 4 Super Bowls as a quarterback, but to be honest, I'd get rid of the forward pass.
Wow. Okay. And then he lays out an argument, and you're like, "Oh yeah, you actually should give rid of the."
By the way, in this same interview, he was talking about the Steelers quarterback development. And when I was searching for this quote before we went live, the first line I saw also from the interview was, "I liked Kenny Pickett."
Yes,
Bradshaw said of the Steelers 2022 first-round pick, he likes Kenny Pickett, doesn't like Aaron Rodgers.
His whole so Bradshaw for the past year, his whole thing has been Kenny Pickett did nothing wrong.
Well, it's pretty. Kenny Pickett, 25% of the way to Terry Bradshaw's Super Bowl victories. So hard to argue there.
Wow, yeah.
Hard to argue there. Got a ring. Who doesn't have a ring? Kenny Pickett, more rings than I don't know. Dan Marino, Denny's God.
You're gonna trigger me. You're gonna make me upset.
Kenny Pickett better at football than Dan Marino. You heard it here first. Malik Nabers, better at football. It almost missed very little time. I think one game, something I definitely should have looked up before we came on the air. I missed 2 games. I believe maybe once with a concussion.
Yeah.
He was a guy who was coming on and off the field a lot. Kind of like my guy, Luther Burden. Loves to take a hit, loves to limp off the field, and then immediately come back in and be like, nothing's happened. But then toe injury. He's a young man. But toe is one of the first. If you were to ask an average fan, what's a body part that lends itself to chronic injuries in the NFL? Like, the toe. For sure. I don't even know what turf toe is.
No, I'd rather him be struggling with a knee right now than
so. Any concerns on Malik Nabers, or is this the classic? It is May 29th. Like someone says something, it sounds kind of concerning, and then Malik Nabers reports to camp in July. Like, Malik, how's the toe? Like, what?
Right.
No, he was hurt for like a day in May.
He's like, all 8 of them are great. Why would you ask?
Are we concerned, Denny?
I mean, I have to say a little, because Daboll mentioned this unprompted, and he said he's not going
to. Not to cut you off, but to immediately cut you off. When it's unprompted, that is so bad. It's like so bad, because listen, it's not a big deal. There's something we need to get out there real quick. Get Malik Nabers. If you've seen Malik's foot,
please let
us know. Yeah, please.
Yeah.
We have an NDA for you to sign if you see that foot.
Please let someone of the Giants training staff know.
Yeah, and Daboll said, this didn't start last year. It started when he was at LSU.
AKA, we didn't do it. We're not responsible for this. Don't be mad at us when he misses time this year for the injury that was not our fault.
And I'm like,
the warranty isn't void. We can still return him. We've got 3 seasons of
honestly, like I'm reading this quote, and it's like getting worse by the second. I'm expecting him at the end to be like, and he won't play this year probably. I mean, by the end, going back to LSU, he's not going to need surgery. Okay, I guess that's good. I'm glad to hear that.
It's the classic my not going to need surgery T-shirt is raising many questions already answered by
right. Why are you asking Malik Nabers if he needs toe surgery? So you would hope that would have been done, I don't know, back in February if he needed it. Something to monitor, but it's not great.
Well, to a guy who was already very upset at being a New York Giant last year, thankfully on the field, it didn't hurt his production, but didn't seem super psyched about it. It's another lost year for the Giants. Like, will Malik Nabers, if he's hurt, like play through it this year? Should he even play through it? Kyle, he's the wide receiver 5 right now, an underdog, a 1 spot behind Puka, 1 spot ahead of Amon-Ra. People like to panic. If you're a volume best ball drafter such as yourself, are you just internalizing this and moving on? Or are you actually adjusting the ranks?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably be taking him. I would take him after Amon-Ra, which is the most minor. They both have an ADP that starts with 9. It's like 9.1 versus 9.8. So drafters are truly torn. And I don't think this is something to panic over. And in a way, I mean, this example doesn't work out well, but in a way, it reminds me of Puka last year, where like people were panicking over the injury. And I was like, I guess they were right in the sense of he got hurt. He re-aggravated that knee injury. But I was right in that he finished as the wide receiver 2 in points per game. And if you're telling me the risk is he is the best receiver when he's on the field, but we don't know how often he's going to be on the field, like, we're just bad at predicting injuries. So I'm going to take that plunge. I don't think Nabers is good of a bet, because I think the offense, like you said, dude, this is just a total lost year. At the end, we're going to be learning who their special teams coordinator is, because he's their interim head coach. Like, that's what we're going to be doing in week 15. So
no way it's not John Fossil, by the way.
I was going to say, like, Joe Judge is just crawling around in the rafters. Like, I'm still here, everyone. And he descends upon the team to be the interim head coach. Like, what is Freddie Kitchens up to? These guys have to still be around.
Oh, no. Freddie Kitchens.
So the offensive environment is not as good as it was with Puka, where it's like, you just got a statue quarterback who's going to feed you targets. And we think you're obviously an elite talent. The talent part of the equation is still probably not quite as good as Puka's. He's just that good, but it's undeniable. Malik Nabers is one of the best rookies we've seen come into the NFL the past decade or so. So offensive situation aside, I'm not worried about him as a player. But because there is such a downside risk of this team is heinous, I think I would probably be taking Amon-Ra over him. And we can talk about this another day, but I think I would take CMC over him too. But it's 1 or 2 spots. I still think he's a fine pick at 9 or 10, which is where he goes.
Well, the second offseason is always very critical. I feel like that's where I learned to be an NFL player, where they really get in the swing of things. So you don't love a guy not really doing anything during a second offseason, but I mean, we all know, like, there's no reason, Denny, to practice if you're even mildly injured. So there's no true reason to panic.
Yeah.
It is more of an eyebrow raiser than a panic.
Yeah, and his role is so secure in this offense. He was targeted on 30% of his routes last year. That's super high. Also, this is my favorite. You guys know, lots of easy button targets for Malik Nabers. 57% of his targets last year came within 9 yards of the line of scrimmage. That's pretty high rate.
Does Russ Wilson do that?
No. But
I think so.
maybe he will. Maybe he will this time. And that's another thing is like, I would like Nabers to have a full off season of getting used to Jackson Dart and Russell Wilson, and it doesn't look like we're going to get that. No,
that is getting used to the ball might not go where you think it's going to go, but you can imagine if it did. But Malik Nabers, it's concerning looking into it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all we're really doing. We are not panicking. We're not really adjusting. Rashee Rice, he is one of the offseason's biggest injury question marks. And Patrick Mahomes, again, the man who injured Rashee Rice, it was a very freak accident, told reporters that he looks like himself and has, quote, no limitations. He still wasn't practicing, but they claimed it was because he was sick, not because of his injury. That's a bit convenient, I thought.
Yeah.
But Rashee Rice, Kyle, talk about an ADP that could be like all over the map this summer. He's going to be too high. He's going to be too low. Are you approaching the Rashee Rice situation as all systems go as a thought-leading volume best ball drafter? Wide receiver 17 right now. Not much of a discount.
Yeah, didn't he start the year with 3 100-yard games? Like, he was on pace to finish the wide receiver 1 overall. That team just did not have anyone else to throw to. Travis Kelce, like, this is the point where Xavier Worthy was just doing nothing. He hadn't learned the ropes of the NFL, and he progressed towards the end of the year. I still don't know exactly what his role is going to end up being, and Travis Kelce just seems very much to be on the way out. So not a discount in the sense of, like, it feels like a lot to pay for a guy who has both suspension and catastrophic knee injury recovery risk. But on the other hand, it's a massive discount to what the brief sample was of him being what looked like to be a true superstar. I was working on some stuff for an article that maybe it'll come out next week. Maybe it won't. Who knows? And if you look at the way that superstars, like our current crop of superstars produced as rookies, it looks a lot like Rashee Rice. Like, he fits in very much of the mold of like the Malik Nabers, Brian Thomas. Guys get on the field early. They're efficient. They command targets. They do it all, essentially. Those guys pretty quickly take the next step to true superstardom. And like I said, I think it was 3 100-yard games to open the year. Like,
it was two of 3, but the third was 79 yards and a touchdown.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. So like we were seeing it. It was happening. And right now it seems like at least the Twitter lawyers and the Twitter doctors are both united in that it seems like his legal situation is just continually being kicked down the road. It almost seems at this point like it's a 2026 issue. Again, that's a very fluid situation, as is the case with like his recovery from his knee injury. But if you were telling me those things were not issues, I would just take him at the end of the first round. Like, that's what it looks like he should be. If he was fully healthy and we had just 19 career games to look at, and he just didn't play at the end of last year for not explosion of the knee reasons. Like, if we're just looking at his body of work, he looks like a first round wide receiver. So I think his price continues to go up. And for now, I'm fine with it. Eventually, it could get to a point where I'm saying, like, why wouldn't I take Malik Nabers over him or whatever? I don't think it gets quite that high. But I think once it reaches the A.J. Brown, Ladd McConkey, and like Drake London kind of tier, that's where I'd be fully out. Just like, let's just take the known quantities who are not carrying all these risks. But until then, he matches those guys in at least upside.
Denny and I are cautious elder millennials. So we see the 28.9 Rashee Rice ADP, and we get a little concerned. Denny, what do you think? I mean, supposedly it was like more than just a normal knee injury, but the rehab, every report has been, it's been a very straightforward recovery. Week 1 definitely looks realistic. It will have been almost an entire year since the injury. Are you sharing Kyle's optimism?
I'm sharing a lot of it. Maybe not all of it. And I am in on what Kyle's saying about like that Drake London, AJ Brown area. I would much rather just take them over Rice. But I mean, it's easy to forget that Rashee Rice was looking like the league winner, not a league winner, the league winner early in the season. And if they could get back to that at some point this year, maybe not right away, but that sort of usage, right? In week 4, week 6, something like that. I mean, you could have a real steal on your hands, Rashee Rice.
I was, quote, going for it in my dynasty league last year and traded injured Rashee Rice for Devontae Smith. What level of hell am I in?
Well,
yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, small sample size, but last year, 3.2 yards per out run for Rashee Rice, beating everyone in the league except for Puka Nacua. That's it. Like, that's the kind of target commander and efficiency earner he was looking like. Admittedly, small sample, but he was extremely efficient in his rookie season too. Not quite to that level, but it looked like he had taken the next step. So a cautiously, extremely no caution excited.
I was coping so hard with Rashee Rice because I didn't have him in any of my important leagues because I went heavy at wide receiver early on and didn't really grab him because I don't know where he was going, but it wasn't in the range where I was usually taking receivers. And then I'm like, oh, like he's like a 1-for-1 replacement for Justin Jefferson.
So
Denny, you can just say it. The fish got there with him. All right, they dodged a bullet.
So the Twitter lawyers and doctors are in agreement. Next, we need the Twitter weather people and finance bros to agree on Rashee Rice. Then we will really be cooking with gas. Speaking of the finance bros, like we said in the intro, Terry McLaurin wants a new deal. He's pretty old. I don't know. He's like DJ Moore's. You know how they say he's a songwriter. Terry McLaurin is like a DJ Moore. Like this never quite reaches expectations, is always solid, just always a sense he should be something more. Mr. Denny Carter, he's currently the wide receiver 16. It feels very rich to me for someone with his track record, with his advancing age, with his newfound target competition in Deebo Samuel. What is the state of DJ Moore, who turns 30 in September? He's always one of the wow, I didn't realize Terry McLaurin was that old type guys. What are we telling people on Terry McLaurin?
I mean, I think, he's trying to cash in, rightfully so, right now, rather than after Deebo Samuel eats into his workload and eats into his target share. I think Deebo Samuel's probably a pretty big problem for Terry McLaurin as far as opportunity goes. This Washington passing game is not voluminous by any means. It's not something that I think can easily support two elite fantasy pass catchers. If you look at his numbers from last year, Terry McLaurin, his yards per route run a little bit under 2. It was the third best of his career. So he didn't exactly blow the roof off the thing. His yards after his yak per reception. You
can get it out. His yak per reception.
His yak per reception was the second lowest of his career. It didn't exactly sparkle in these categories. So I think this is I need to get paid now, and I hope he does. But wide receiver 16 for Terry McLaurin, unless you doing the best ball thing and dead set on stacking Jayden Daniels, I don't know about that.
So Kyle, a point I keep making to Denny, I think a theme I'll revisit all summer, is that I just don't think receivers as deep as we've gotten used to. And basically every receiver ADP outside of the top 6 or 7 just does not look right to me. It was seriously any receiver. I mentioned wide receiver 18. That seems wide receiver 21. That doesn't sound right for him. Wide receiver 26. Yikes. Do you agree with my wide receiver 16 reticence on Terry McLaurin, or is it just listen, man? He's a known commodity. Receiver's weird right now. You got to take the player who's got the elite quarterback. He's going to have 1,000 yards. What do you think?
No, I think it sounds like we all agree. I think the big issue for me is, as Denny pointed out, he really wasn't that different of a player than we've seen at any point in his career. Like you said, still sub 2 yards per route run. He did
score 13 touchdowns, which of course fluky, but it could also be gets a real quarterback once.
That's kind of the big red flag. Is he is one of 25 wide receivers since 2000 to have 100 targets and an over 10% touchdown rate. He had 11%, so he was well over that 10% mark. The average touchdown rate the next year for those guys is 6%. They get a little less than halved on average. And it's not complete fluke players. They're really good players top to bottom, because you have to be good to score touchdowns, but also it's hard to do that in back-to-back years, even for the best players. So to me, if you're not a wild yardage producer, you're not extremely efficient, you're just good in a lot of categories, and touchdowns is the selling point, and it's touchdown rate too. To me, that's the big red flag, to where I just don't see the difference between him and guys going 5 or 4 wide receiver spots after him.
Well, let's see here. Wide receiver 16, wide receiver 17 is Rashee Rice. Are you guys uniform and Rashee over Terry McLaurin?
Yeah, I would take him. It's funny. Only on a fantasy football show could we say he scored a lot of touchdowns last year, which is bad.
That's very bad. Wide receiver 18, JSN, or wide receiver 16, Terry McLaurin.
That's tough.
You mean Jason, but
JSN
not as confidently.
Sure. JSN for sure, Denny.
And they're never going to throw the ball in Seattle.
So they're throwing to only one guy, though.
Didn't your whole Washington spiel be that's not a great passing attack anyway?
Wide receiver 19, Devontae Adams, or wide receiver 16, Terry McLaurin.
I think Adams too.
That's one spot where I'll bet on Adam still having more left in the tank than I assume. All right. I guess we'll move on from that one because, boy, all these ADPs are bad. All these players are bad. Tetsuroa McMillan, wide receiver 22, huh? Anytime the number one receiver for Bryce Young, you can take him as a wide receiver 2 without playing a single snap in the NFL. You have to do it.
Also, Dave Canales said the other day that Leggett is their wide receiver 1.
It's never, ever more over. So, yeah, you said it's not a prolific passing attack, Denny. Well, then try to explain Jayden Daniels gaining weight. Jayden Daniels is a little thicker. Must we adjust the rankings? Is it Jalen Hurts season in Washington? Is it tush push season?
No.
Is anything whatsoever to read in Jayden Daniels, who was admittedly a stick figure last year.
So thin. I mean, we saw him at the Super Bowl, and the guy's so thin that I didn't even know it was him until someone was
like Durant levels thin.
I was like, what? Okay, so Cliff Kingsbury came in. He talked about soccer for a while to the reporters.
Of course he did. That's such a Cliff thing to talk about, by the way.
I have a personality, I swear to God.
Yeah, he loves his soccer. And then he said, Jayden came in looking a little thicker than last year and with a stronger arm, which is something I mentioned in the blurb.
All right, whatever.
He's 6'5" too, you know?
This is the point where I fake having a phone call when someone's talking to me. All right, yeah, I thought this was really interesting. He's faster.
Also, his listed weight was 210.
Dude, come on.
No way.
He's like 190 is generous to him. He
is 6'4". I mean, he's a pretty big guy.
I know.
He's only 6'3".
Still,
but
he's
210's crazy. It's just like Bryce Young being 205. Come on.
Yeah.
Bryce Young's 180.
Bryce Young maybe his entire. That's Bryce Young's lifetime cumulative weight, where he's had 205 pounds. Cycle through his body at some point.
So anyway, I don't think it changed anything. But Lamar did this, if you guys remember, where he became.
And he got slow.
He became like. Do you remember in the Ninja Turtles movie where Shredder becomes bigger? No. Becomes like Jack's Super Shredder. Do you guys know? No.
I think I remember this vaguely.
So anyway, Lamar had his Super Shredder phase, and it was not good. And he said he was like, I look back on pictures of me back then and I'm like, I'm fat.
He did say that.
And so he got back down to his normal weight and immediately became the MVP again.
So curious. Yeah, hopefully Jayden. Oh yeah. Denny, what running back were we talking about that gained weight? And we're like, it's never been more over.
I don't like when running backs gain weight.
There's no way to know though. Maybe we'll come to us when we take a short break. We'll be right back after this. Since there really isn't an offseason in the NFL, stay dialed in with us on the NBC Sports Now channel. Join Dan Patrick, Mike Florio, Chris Sims, Matthew Berry, and us from the Rotoworld Football Show for more insight on the biggest news and stories around the league. For more details, visit NBCSports.com/now. That wasn't H-Han, Kyle. Someone gained weight, and Denny and I were like, it's never been more over.
Well, H-Han put on weight going into last year, and of course, then he immediately got Jerome Bettis treatment.
He did. Yeah, and he looked like Jerome Bettis, so you get treated like Jerome Bettis. Even though he still looked exactly the same.
Oh, yeah, no, that wasn't real.
Scanning through, someone gained weight. I can't remember who the heck it was.
Bucky Irving?
No, that way would never be more over if Bucky gained weight.
That's a bad weight. That's a bad player to gain weight.
Yeah, please, no Bucky. Please, no Jonnu Smith trade because the whole thing is dependent on a scam, man.
That's right.
And Jonnu seems to get this, where ESPN's Adam Schefter reports he could be dealt to the Steelers, and Jonnu's like, no, dude, I'll take a pay cut. Like I will take a pay cut. Where it says he's seeking a restructured contract. Well, he's apparently seeking a new contract. I guess he wants to get paid. But he seems like he's open to staying with Miami. It seems like they are not open to paying him. It would be a reunion with Arthur Smith in Pittsburgh. Kind of early to talk about something that hasn't happened, but it seems like it very much could happen, Denny. Would it have never been more over if Jonnu Smith leaves behind the Mike McDaniel cocoon? The reason he's in Miami is because the first time he was with Arthur Smith, it was so bad. He almost fell out of the league.
Yeah.
So, yeah, tell us how over it is.
Jonnu Smith, for those who may have forgotten, was basically not used at all as a pass catcher in the first 4 weeks of 2024. And then he was starting in week 5. And then he was elite from there on out. He was top 5 in tight end receiving yards, top 5 in targets and top 5 and in receptions. He was, like you said, Pat, a PPR scam, unlike anything we've ever seen, frankly. And I want more. I want more of that in Miami. And if he goes to Pittsburgh, one of, the run heaviest teams in the league, and you have the other tight end whose name escapes me from Pittsburgh.
Muth.
Freiermuth. I wanted to say Heath Miller. Heath Miller's son, Pat Freiermuth. So they're not going to bench Freiermuth. I mean, these guys are going to split.
Yeah, they kind of already do sometimes.
No. He's their mascot.
Exactly. He's a mascot. They love the idea of him.
Right.
They don't ever actually do anything with it.
Yeah, you're completely off base here. I mean, Muth is gonna. He's gonna play.
The Muth is loose, and he caught 4 total passes.
I'm not saying that he's good. He's not good. That doesn't matter. For fantasy, Jonnu goes from I gotta get this guy in some best ball to I'm crossing him off my board if he goes to Pittsburgh.
Well, I was gonna say the Arthur Smith experience for Jonnu. I mean, that was
better than I remembered.
I think you're getting it confused with how much he buried Kyle Pitts that year. That was the year where Jonnu specifically, he pulled the one little card out from the house of cards on the whole Kyle Pitts thing. Not that it was a great year, right? But it was a career year, and I believe catches and yards. Wasn't anything super special, but it's sort of
Kyle showed up just please don't instantly be better, and he's instantly better than Kyle.
Instantly better. It was so quick, and he was so much better.
It was so quick. Yeah.
So it is interesting. So Kyle, 2, is it a bad sign just even for his Dolphins future that basically when you're talking about we might trade a guy, you're kind of saying we don't think he's really that integral to the offense. He's expendable. Mm-hmm. Is this a negative indicator even if he remains with Miami? And do we need to be dialing off his ADP of, I swear I can find a tight end 6. Oh my God. We need to be dialing off that regardless.
Yeah. I feel like like you said, the risk of just the fact that he's traded would be very bad. It would just be bad for his fantasy outlook. But the fact that they are considering trading him tells us that that's, like you said, he's just not an integral piece. And I understand why they feel that way, because when this offense is at its best, it's 50-yard touchdowns to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Can they get back to that? I don't know. Maybe defenses have just figured out Tua and Mike McDaniel enough that there is no way they ever go back to that. But I don't see how they're a pushing deep into the playoffs type of team unless they're utilizing the skill sets of their wide receivers more like they were 2 and 3 years ago. So from that perspective, you would not really want, Jonnu Smith is kind of this team's Evan Ingram. He's good at earning targets. I think he's better than Evan Ingram, frankly. But when you build your entire offense out of him, it sort of reveals the flaws within your offense that you will decide to do that. So, yeah, I do think it's maybe a slight indication that they understandably want to try and move back to their wide receivers.
Denny, what are the tight end 1 odds if Jonnu Smith ends up in Pittsburgh? 0.0, or can he be in that 11 to 12 range?
I wouldn't say 0 because, he could have a touchdown heavy season, and that makes all the difference for a tight end, even if they're not really, super involved or getting a ton of targets. But I would say Jonnu would be more likely to be a streaming option rather than a plugged in fantasy starter if he's in Pittsburgh.
I will just say, I don't think it would be a total death knell. Denny, I challenged you the other day to name the Steelers' 3rd weapon, and you claimed Roman Wilson.
It's Roman Wilson.
Which just shows how dire the situation really is. And even with the Muth there, Jonnu's almost treated like his own unique position where he's a catch and run guy. He's an H-back. He's a catch and run guy.
Kinda, yeah.
Or I wouldn't say it'd be a total death knell. I wouldn't prefer it, of course, him being on the Steelers, but I wouldn't say it's a team that desperately needs pass catching targets. Arthur Smith, I forgot, actually kind of revived Jonnu after his Patriots doldrums. So it's not like it would be our preferred outcome. Might not be as bad as we were worried, though. I'll tell you what is not a preferred outcome is Josh Downs picking up another injury, Kyle. They're claiming it's minor, but is this a guy where obstacles are just stacking up too much? He's had an injury history. He can't get viable quarterback play. Has a lot of target competition somehow. They added more in a first-round tight end and Tyler Warren. Because sometimes at his best, we were saying, man, Josh Downs kind of looks like Antonio Brown when he's out there running around in the open field. It's just not happening, maybe at least until there's a change of scenery or a change of quarterback in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I'll say the target competition does not scare me. Downs, they added Tyler Warren, right? But Downs was an elite target earner last year. He was 4th in the NFL in targets per route run, 4th in open score, 14th in target share. He looks like a true wide receiver 1 at earning targets. And while he's a lower ADOT guy, he's not in the Wan'Dale Robinson category of like, you are such a low ADOT player that it hurts your efficiency and it hurts your upside. Like he's just pushing far enough downfield that he can blend in some explosive plays, some long catches with a high floor of target share, albeit you cannot have a high floor of actual literal targets when you have Anthony Richardson as your quarterback. I will say, like, we really struggle to be like, man, this player is great, but I just can't imagine how it works. Oh, and it instantly worked. Because a lot of times, like, talent transcends our short-term views of the situation. And with that being said, the short-term view of the situation is really bad, right? The good outcome for Josh Downs is a bunch of Daniel Jones starts. Because, as far as completing a bunch of short to intermediate throws, I'm largely out on the idea that Anthony Richardson will do that with both accuracy and volume. So I think it has to somewhat be Daniel Jones who actually can do that stuff. He can just like be the game manager.
That's what he loves. That's his love of the game there. And winning. I don't care about that whatsoever. But peppering people with short targets, preferably short of the sticks. Now that I love.
Oh, yeah. Very short of the sticks. So
that's why I get up.
Yeah. When that is the good outcome, feels like we're in a bad place. But you're not being charged a ton to draft what is a really talented player in Josh Downs because the situation is so bad. And when I think the market is overweighing the situation, when we can tell a player is likely really good, I'm just going to be like, I don't know. These things typically work themselves out. They don't always. Some players just get stuck in bad situations forever and it never works. But we're not being asked to pay a lot for it. So I'm just going to draft him.
Denny, do you agree on Downs? Have some optimism. Michael Pittman seems to kind of be fading from relevance. Adonai Mitchell, wide receiver 82 on underdog. Or Downs and the wide receiver 49 for Downs. Downs and this entire Colts receiver core just not really something to be dabbling with in fantasy football this year.
No, I'm not going to write it off because like you said, Kyle, if Daniel Jones gets some starts, gets some like good run here,
this horrible quarterback plays, then it's really good
better than the other horrible quarterback.
Cut mid-season last year. If that guy can get on the field,
this guy who literally signed to the Vikings practice squad becomes the starting quarterback for Josh. Then it's down season.
I wanted to, and the price point is just so meager at this point. I feel like.
Reminder, he is hurt again also, by the way. I feel like we haven't focused on that much. But
I'm good. I mean, it depends on how you're building your team. I think that you take the chance on Downs if you are dabbling with like a running back heavy approach and kind of trying to scoop up value in the middle rounds or whatever at wide receiver. I will mention just quickly, I did a piece a couple months ago on players who really excel versus certain defenses, and Josh Downs is basically unusable against man coverage and unstoppable against zone coverage. So that is something I'm going to remind the folks about as we approach the season. When this guy's playing zone defenses, heavy zone defenses, he'll be different than he is against man.
I feel like I typically prefer when you can beat man coverage.
They run like 2/3 zone though. Who cares? Yeah, I think versus man coverage might be like a better indicator of who you are as a talent. Like, can you just win one-on-one? But I don't know if it's exactly a better indicator of who will score more fantasy points.
Finding the soft spots in the zone is a very real skill, but typically you want that to be accompanied by you're not totally useless versus man coverage.
Definitely, yeah.
So Josh Downs, wide receiver 49, kind of feels like free money, but for all the reasons we just laid out, might not be the case. Ricky Pearsall breakout odds ? The Athletics, Matt Barrows reports Ricky Pearsall has worked extensively with Brock Purdy this season. We have a burgeoning narrative, Denny Carter. They occasionally listen. I'm not supposed to share this. Like, the players don't like this kind of stuff. They go to Taco Bell together sometimes. What do we think of Ricky Pearsall? Closed the season very strongly. Deebo Samuel's gone. Brandon Ayuk still rehabbing. What do we think about Ricky Pearsall in 2025?
I keep forgetting about him, but I shouldn't because.
Kyle, do you know anything about Ricky Pearsall? Next.
I mean, producer Adam reminded me a few minutes ago. He is a first-round receiver. Like, he is, he has
number 31, but that's fine. Yeah.
I mean, what does that not count?
I'm kidding.
So that you have the fact that the report said that Pearsall has traveled with Purdy to Arizona and Florida to practice with him this spring.
To find like same plane, hopefully.
Probably.
If we could clarify, if it's road trip, if they were in a car together,
that's
for
insane.
That
If it's road trip,
it would be insane. There's no way
they're exploring Southwestern America together. Like it's on.
Yeah, to be fair, Brock Purdy probably got his extension. It happened super recently. Before that, I don't know. We have to figure out the timing because Brock Purdy wouldn't have had a ton of money, right? A month ago. If they made that trip a month ago, it could have happened in a car. At which point, that's wide receiver one stuff.
That's wide receiver one territory for sure.
Oh, Honda. Oh my God! Like I would hope they at least have like a nice van.
It's true. Plymouth Voyager. I wonder if they still make those every year. What the Plymouth van is called now.
Plymouth doesn't even exist anymore.
No, you're Chrysler. That's right. Anyway, sorry, Denny.
No.
Your local Chrysler Plymouth dealers.
Keep riffing. Keep going. Do another 10 minutes on Pearsall and Purdy.
Zoomers have never heard of the Plymouth. That's a little disturbing. But
just real quick here, Purdy said that he was like close to being on the same page as Pearsall last year. I think we saw that in week 17 against the Cardinals. Pearsall 8 catches for 141 yards and a touchdown against the Cardinals that day. He probably functions as the wide receiver 2 behind Jawan Jennings to start the season. Ayuk is very iffy to start the season. And Demarcus Robinson is facing a potential suspension for DUI situation. So, Pearsall, you could do worse.
I thought you had something more in depth than that. Like yards per anything.
I have some yards per whatever's. They're not good, but so
that's bad.
That's why
it's all bad. But it's like
there's got to be some reason Denny didn't mention any of the metrics.
No.
Yeah, he was 72nd in yards per route run. He was 79th in PFF receiving grade, 87th in targets per route run. But like, what are you going to do? I think he injured his shoulder before he got shot in the chest. Like he was already not practicing. Gets shot in the chest.
Yeah.
And then shows up, not even it was probably about mid-season to a team like kind of in disarray at that point. He had a few.
Shanny had given up. Yeah, they were in disarray.
Yeah, really, they had. And of course, the one time Shanny actually cared, we talked at length about how that Lions game was the team's Super Bowl. And that I don't even remember if they won that game. It was an awesome game for
the Lions. Won Monday Night Football. It was a track meet, one of the games of the year.
Awesome, yeah. You could tell like that was Shanny's Super Bowl. It's like I know we're not making it, but I'd at least like to show that I've still got the fastball.
That was such good analysis by us. We nailed that for the game. Like Shanny is putting everything he has into this game. Like
and he did, yeah.
This bleep means something to him.
So like quite literally the worst offseason in terms of outside factors a player can have. He was shot and he comes in and doesn't look efficient, but flashes in a few games, like 2 games specifically. I kind of think that's a win for his rookie season, given what we expected from him in week 1. I mean, there was a certain point where I was like, there's zero chance this guy plays football in the year 2024. And he had like a 150-yard game or whatever it was that you read out the stat line. That's kind of a win. I feel like it's kind of like a somewhat successful rookie season given the context. So I feel, and like you said, he's a first-round pick, late first round, but he was a first-round pick who flashed a little bit as a rookie and is an offense that is really good at making efficient players out of guys who are surprising to be efficient players, frankly. Yeah, the breakout odds aren't that bad,
The way I would put it with Pearsall is he didn't show enough as a rookie, but he also didn't show too little. It was just a classic inconclusive where there was a pretty decent amount of bad, but there was enough good to catch your attention and keep him in the conversation. So Ricky Pearsall, assuming he's going to be a guy we talk about a lot this summer. We got 2 more guys to talk about when we come right back after this. The grandest stage in women's golf, the United States Women's Open presented by Ally. Watch this weekend on NBC and Peacock as the biggest stars take on the Erin Hills Golf Course in Wisconsin. I remembered where Erin Hills was before Tuesday. I definitely knew where it was before the producer Adam told me where it was. And Erin Hills. There's been some memorable men's events there too, I know. Can't remember what. I will be watching on NBC and Peacock. Are either of you bothering with the but it might work for us with Kyle Pitts this year? I mean, it's not going to, but will it work for us with Kyle Pitts? Who wants to tackle this one first?
I can't. I'm sorry. I'm so tired. And fortunately, Pat and I have been right on Kyle Pitts for years. So, I just
what
don't.
Years this guy been in the league? By this is like this 12th year in the league.
His 5th year.
What? No, there's no he's been in 4.
I think it's his 5th year team option year somehow.
It is.
How did they ever exercise that? But sorry,
man,
Denny,
he is in his 5th year. You're right.
Denny, you were saying?
Man.
Yeah, 5th year, like never a target commander. Coaches are now openly like saying that he needs to try more. Like that. It's all downhill from here. Like it's been bad. It's going to continue to be bad. He'll go down as probably like one of the biggest busts in NFL history.
Why did I even put Kyle Pitts in the show sheet? Do you remember? Why was he in the news?
Oh, he held out. No. He was injured to start OTAs.
Oh yeah, dealing with
good. Okay, cool. It wasn't anything major. Just he's not practicing. He's hurt.
But they thought it was because he wanted a new contract.
That's right.
But how on earth did that guy demand a new contract? He's done literally nothing, next to nothing in 4 years. He's just complete. Right, a completely invisible player.
Hold on. I'd like to point out, I'm not drafting him. I
1,000 yards. Yeah, I mean, who was president then? Jimmy Carter next.
Look, if you pull out your history book, you go to page 347, you will find 1,000 yards. I think it was the 2nd most for a rookie tight end. Now the 3rd most because of Brock Bowers.
It was, I think, the most since Jeremy Shockey, but yeah, Kyle Pitts, like, man, I don't know what to tell you, dude. But tight end 17 in summer fantasy drafts, I'll say. So people are finally sort of getting the message, but even tight end 17 is pretty.
I was going to say he's finished last year as the tight end 15, primarily because he's played all 17 games. Like you just show up and you run routes and you get finished as a top 20 tight end. But at least he's being priced as like a premium total jag who just runs routes, like in the Jake Ferguson zone. Like, I don't really think he's that good, but I do think he's going to run all the routes. And the target competition is relatively weak, even weaker for him than a guy like Jake Ferguson. So like, that's what you hang your hat on, is the cost is low and you get to take what is ultimately a complete scratch off. Because I don't think he's good anymore. But like, you know, the Carter administration thought he was. They let him get to 1,000 yards.
They did.
Hey, no politics. I actually did a sicko search, and I found that since the start of the 2023 season, Kyle Pitts ranks 119th in EPA per target among all catchers.
Well, you cut out the good plays, and sure, all of which happened.
That includes the good plays.
No, the good plays all happened in 2021. The Carter administration.
I see.
Speaking of the Carter, if we get another Camp David Accords, maybe we'll actually figure out how to make Kyle Pitts good.
Yeah. No,
Global Peace Summit will make Kyle Pitts good.
1,026 as a rookie was the 2nd most all time behind Mike Ditka. Like, he was really good as a rookie. You know, it's been a while since then. It's been pretty disappointing since then. Let me tell you, it's been sad. But
final word, Denny, on Kyle Pitts?
He's a streamer. He's going to be a streamer. I don't think that he's suddenly going to like emerge here. He's just not. Drake London is the dominant wide receiver.
Real quick, Kyle Pitts, tight end 17, Brenton Strange, tight end 19.
Strange.
Pitts, who cares?
Pitts or Ertz, white tight end 20.
Oh, what are you making your face?
But Pitts, it's Ertz. I'm like, but it might work for us.
Do you want 8 targets a game or don't you?
Pitts or the Muth Daddy, tight end 21.
Ugh, Pitts, whatever.
Yes, let's go. We got Denny.
Denny, Carter, Bears, screen passes, Luther Burden. Supposing to be a staple of this offense. Any thoughts on this? Apparently the screens didn't work at all last year. The Bears. That was their one innovation, is they tried to slow down the pressure, and the defense like, they're going to do another screen. Just easily blow it up. Yeah. Will it be better this year with Luther Burden and Ben Johnson?
It probably should be. Caleb Williams completed 94 of 99 screen passes at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage.
Is that good for a screen? I mean, I feel like a screen percentage could be 100.
Well, I mean, you know, it was among the higher rates. They didn't go anywhere. But you know, lots of those. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown saw a lot of that in Ben Johnson's offense. You know, it's hard to say that like one guy would be the beneficiary, because you have Burden, who would seem to factor in there as a screen merchant, but also DJ Moore, you know, and so maybe they split it up. But really, that's not what I want to hear right now. I know.
I agree. That's like kind of like that can be the secret plan. Like, well, if he's not good, we'll do a bunch of screens. I don't like, when they're already in May, like we're going to throw this guy a bunch of screens, and that means he can't get open.
No, I mean, it means that like we don't trust Caleb.
That also just means they don't trust Luther to get open on his own, and he's a manufactured touch guy.
Yeah,
but they didn't. I don't think they specified that it was Burden that would be the screen guy. Because I think, to Denny's point, DJ Moore has at times in his career been like a true shallow, like
total screen merchant.
I like him, so I don't want to call him a screen merchant. But yeah, he's a freaking screen merchant in like at least 1 year in Carolina. So I don't think it's necessarily an indictment. I honestly, I took it more like Denny did. Like, you know how we fixed Jared Goff? We take the ball out of his hands as quickly as possible, as often as possible. And they're already that's what McVay did with Jared Goff. And it's kind of what's happened. He's done more than that. I don't want to completely trash him, but like, we need to really make sure this guy is coddled. And that's the first thing we get for Caleb Williams' second off season. And immediately after, apparently it's confirmed essentially that he's like, I didn't even want to play in Chicago when I first found out about it. I don't know, man. This guy's a bust. Move on.
What? No. He's not a bust. Kyle is converted to Caleb's a bust.
No, yeah. I was anti-Caleb after he was really, really, really bad. Is what
my one takeaway from Caleb was I wasn't sure about the toughness for a variety of reasons, and dude was unbelievably tough. Like, if you're already talking about like forcing a trade
really well with the Birmingham Stallions,
like, dude is unbelievably tough. There's no way he could weather worse circumstances than he had last year. Some of them were his own making. You can't sugarcoat that part. Caleb, I'm not giving up on Caleb.
So just so folks are clear here, this is not like a new thing. This won't be a new thing for Caleb Williams because last year he led all quarterbacks with 109 screen passes. Baker Mayfield was next with 98, tied with Bo Nix. Jared Goff was down there at 68 screen passes, and so I don't know like if Ben Johnson has not like looked into that.
109 screens is obscene.
Didn't work.
As Adam points out, it was kind of their only idea after they fired Matt Eberflus. They had no other answers, but man, that's an obscene amount of screens.
It's too many.
It's too many. It's too much time. Good time to end the show. A lot of good stuff. A lot of more good stuff. Kyle, what was your article coming out next week, you said?
It was looking at the like superstar wide receivers of today and seeing how they performed as rookies and seeing if we can find any rookies or just young players that look like that. I'll have more updates on that by next week. It'll be out by next week at some point, I'm sure. Pat, as you know, once you say an article's coming out next week, it always
comes out. Denny does have an article out on elite run blocking offensive lines and what that means for fantasy football. Speaking of articles that are definitely coming out next Thursday, I'm hoping to publish my annual general manager rankings. I believe they will be ready. I believe I'll be talking about them that day. So a lot of good stuff to look forward to on Rotoworld.com. For Denny Carter, for Kyle Dvorchak, I'm Patrick Daugherty. Thank you for listening. We'll be back with you next Tuesday.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.